Beauty and the Beast is directed by Bill Condon, written by Stephen Chbosky and Evan Spiliotopoulos. It's based on, of course, the 1991 classic animated Disney film directed by Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise, and which in turn was based on the French fairy tale. And this movie stars Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, Luke Evans, and a ton of other people. And if you still somehow don't know what Beauty and the Beast is about, it's essentially a story of a bookish and beautiful young woman who is imprisoned in the castle of a prince cursed into the form of a beast, and the relationship that grows between them. Now, I personally got onto the hype train of Beauty and the Beast really late. I only actually recently watched the animated film, but it's probably, the best thing Disney has ever done in my opinion. However, I'm not as, my expectations weren't as particular with the adaptation of this animated film. Like, I wasn't that, obsessed with it. And I gotta say, I really loved watching this movie. I thought the music was great. I was still very much charmed by the source material, the story itself. However, it's a movie that definitely has issues, especially near the end. Now, I had my arms crossed when I walked into this movie, but I gave up resistance as soon as the very first song, Belle, started playing. I was just so swept up in it. I really enjoyed the music. I genuinely enjoyed all the new versions of the classic songs. I like how they sort of extended all of these songs to kind of switch it up a little bit. And the new songs in this movie, especially Days in the Sun and Evermore, are fantastic additions that I think fit perfectly well with the old songs. I know a lot of people do not like a lot of the singing voices here in Beauty and the Beast. I can see that, I understand that, but it's just not something that bothered me so much. Like, for example, you have Emma Watson as Belle, who is really not a great singer, but I still think she did a really good job as Belle. Emma Watson has that natural sort of intelligence and independence about her, and really lends itself well to her portrayal of Belle. Dan Stevens is fine as the Beast. He's not great, but he's fine because he's kind of held back by the CGI. However, Luke Evans as Gaston is just perfect casting. He somehow, does not make Gaston just feel like a caricature, a cartoon character, but he's still, an oaf. And the rest of the supporting cast is really, really great. Josh Gad as LeFou, Ewan McGregor as Lumiere, Ian McKellen as Cogsworth. They're all so entertaining. But it's not just the music and the singers in this movie that charmed me. It was really Bill Condon's direction for the most part. The way the musical sequences have all the elaborate staging and choreography of a stage musical, and I thought it really worked. Generally, he also manages to replicate the humor from the original and the sense of wonder of just watching this thing unfold. Also, this movie, like in terms of its production design, its costume design, it is jaw-dropping. It's breathtaking, and in terms of the sets they used, there's just so much. There's so many tangible things that I was so glad they used, like real sets and whatnot. And the CGI they used for the servants turned objects like Lumiere and Cogsworth is really convincing, and I liked how they found creative ways to bring these objects to life in ways that still seemed sort of grounded and possible. There are, of course, added details to the plot and the characters and the setting, and these things add additional context to the story and really enhance the source material in some areas, I think, especially in the relationship between Belle and the Beast. It feels less like Stockholm Syndrome, it feels like more of a believable romance. And this movie is over 2 hours long, but never did I feel like looking at the time. It really held my attention. That's a credit to the editing by Virginia Katz, that the movie did not ever really slow down for me that much. However, like I mentioned, there are things that I just really didn't like about this movie. For one, there are some added details, especially in the third act, that I think just make things way too complicated. Like the climax of the story, I won't spoil it, but there are things that happen that drag it out a bit too much. There's something with the Enchantress that goes on that I think was completely unnecessary. And the thing they do with Gaston by the end is really, really lame. It just sort of falls flat, and I was disappointed that it, turned out that way. And then, minor spoiler, but the big castle battle that happens towards the end is also pretty lame. It kind of shows that Bill Condon's strength is not in action directing, because whenever there's action, be it at the end or with the wolves, you just don't know what's going on. It's pretty hard to watch. However, the biggest, most glaring issue here is the fact that the Beast just looks way too fake. He's just not very expressive, which is a shame because it does hold back Dan Stevens' performance, and it ends up killing so much of the romance. Which is disappointing because they had a good romance in the script, but because you can tell that the Beast is fake, it takes away from a lot of the chemistry between Emma Watson and Dan Stevens. Despite those issues though, I will say that Beauty and the Beast is still a pretty good movie. Some people love it, some people hate it. For me, I recognize that it has obvious flaws, but I still did really enjoy watching this movie. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Beauty and the Beast. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? And whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.